to, you know, how do I still help them not lose out academically? And I think at some point they do, because they're not here to experience everything that they would have time to learn. So
being in that class as it's going, as it's live, when people are asking those important questions and getting answers from peers and teachers, that's the part that's essential when the student is absent.
Why do you guys think the strategies was the hard part? You started maybe talking about that. What was hard about that for your kids?
Anxiety comes up. I know for my class in particular, the students that didn't meet one of the students that didn't meet in communication strategies just had a lot to share. She was reactive, as to use our rubric wording. She was primarily reactive and would ask a couple rote questions like blah blah blah, and you, but lacked in the challenging her group members and participating in questioning.
Do you think she has those skills in another language? Is English her language? Yeah.
English is her first language.
And does she have that skill in English?
Yes. Yeah. And I was kind of surprised too, because the student is very involved in drama and theater and being on stage and performing. And so when we're doing performance assessments, I was shocked to have her uncomfortable in that sort of situation. I get it when anxiety plays a role.
I wonder if improv would help her.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe it's, I mean, she doesn't have a script. Maybe she does, you know, she doesn't know how to go off script. Maybe
they're scared to go off their script sometimes.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
I mean, that's where you take your chances.
Yeah.
But saying, okay, you know, you're in this place, you're with these people, act it out, or you know.
I think for mine, whenever I broke them off to do conversation, they started in Spanish and switched to English. Because they
you mean as the formative as the discussion?
They just didn't have the skills to continue the conversation. They, like I said, this group was challenging in ways that I haven't experienced before in level 4, where you know I would give directions and they wouldn't know what to do at level 4, basic directions, and you know, where I'd ask a question and they would have no idea what the question was. As a group, like maybe 2 or 3 kids would know what I asked, but so it was just a really different, as a group, they struggled with.
You couldn't assume they knew you had to act everything out.
Nothing.
You had to check everything.
And even when I did, they said the first couple words and then they switched to English. So, you know, to keep redirecting, I just, you know, that was really, really difficult. I mean, and they'll go to the next level, probably be no better at that.
Well, and I think that's really hard too, because you kind of, you know, trying to pinpoint where's the breakdown, you know, and to reel it back and say, okay, can I say this and there's no breakdown? Can I say that? You know, I mean, that's that
There's
little spot
to
that,
And sometimes we bring up that like participation rubric, and you know, I didn't do that. I didn't do that this year or last year as part of my, you know, as part of our classroom. I just kind of said it's, you know, it's expected, but then
you mean the behavioral rubric thing?
Well, and the fact too that we. In Spanish 4 in the past, we'd had a participation rubric where we would ask the students to grade themselves on that, and I haven't done that now for like a year or so, because the rubric was real. I don't like the rubric in that it was kind of all or nothing. But in some ways, maybe that would have been better. I don't know. Either that or it would have been very quiet.
I know the kids are gone now, but it'd be interesting to see how they might change the rubric. Like, you know, what would you think would be fair? And then maybe like even after a couple of weeks, can we up the rubric? Can you, is there something more that we could put in that you think would be fair to require everything? I don't know.
We tried to do like a positive participation thing, like where it wasn't negative,
Right.
but where every time, they contributed, that they just filled in a little symbol or
Mhm.
something, and we set goals, like how many symbols do you want to fill in today?
Right.
I think for some I think for the students that met the goal, I think I saw
It worked.
I saw some increased effort and some increased awareness of that.
Mhm.
And then there were some kids who I just don't think that they have the skills to, as we go through the semester, the topics get
Mhm.
more and more complicated. And so I think
Mhm.
they were more like fish out of water
Yeah.
with every step.
Yeah, snowballs.
Mhm.
So what
Like I
should
said, I
we do as a
tried an
result?
intervention. Yeah, we tried that
Mhm.
intervention, and I feel like it did work
Mhm. For some.
for some.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think probably looking at some type of
Mhm.
participation.
Yeah,
I
some
mean,
sort of incentive thing, because
Is
it
that
comes
gonna
back
be
to
anxiety
motivation. I don't
producing
know.
them?
well, I don't want it to be anxiety
Yeah,
producing.
Of course
I
you
want
don't.
it to
I
be
didn't mean
positive.
that.
No,
Yeah,
I know,
right.
but
No, yeah.
It's always, it's.
And you did have it self-evaluate,
they did,
wasn't
they
yeah.
did self-evaluate, and they self-set
Self-evaluate.
goals.
One thing that I have done, and I don't know, I have like the phrases, like the really important phrases for the classroom at the beginning, important new phrases for each chapter. I have them on these little cards,
Mhm.
and then kids come up and pick what card they want at the beginning of class, or I just randomly hand them out or whatever. And in the course of the day, if they say that to anybody, they pass the card to somebody else.
Mhm.
And so then it gets them saying the phrases. And then, and we talk about don't all pass your cards to the same person. Don't and if you have 3 or 4 cards, don't panic. Just, as you find a time that's appropriate to say that in class, use it.
Mhm.
But what I find it helps with is when they're learning them, they don't have to remember the phrase. They don't have to think about the phrase. And then on that thing, it usually tells you where they can look in a book for it if it's something they haven't had for a while, or even if it's within the new chapter.
Mhm.
So it starts the building some of that.
So do you
I don't
have
know,
the same cards all the time, or do you
Nope.
cycle them out with each unit, for example?
With each unit, yeah. And they'll be like, I went to the dollar store and got those, like, bulletin board things.
Mhm.
So they might be an apple, it might be a television, it might be a whatever, and it's so it has something to do with whatever we're doing in the unit,
Mhm.
in the lower levels anyway.
Cool.
Upper levels, not as much.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it seems to work. It can be, for some kids it can be really good, for other kids it can be distracting.
Mhm.
If a kid has too many on his desk, I'll just go and pick some up.
Yeah.
Let me just clean this off for you.
Let's
Let's
focus
make
on
it
this.
manageable.
So I think,
Yeah.
I don't know, that might not be the best thing for somebody with anxiety, but it might be a good
Right.
thing for somebody who doesn't have the skill and all they have to do is read off the card.
Mhm. I think that can bring down anxiety in a person that
Yes,
has
if
that.
that's what's causing the anxiety.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Myself as an introvert, I would never raise my hand in class, but I always had the answer.
Yeah.
I was always like right there,
Mhm.
actively engaged, but not physically active
Right.
in the class. And so I always struggle with participation,
Mhm.
and I think it's coming back to motivation and a student's motivation to set themselves apart in class and take risks. And in language, we need to take a risk in order to get better.
And everything, really. But
Everything, yeah,
But
yes.
I think of the silent period in language too, and some kids have a much longer silent period with every new thing they learn.
Mhm.
But if you never get past that,
Right.
you're not going to be able to communicate, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And our classes are so communication focused. We have to say something. Just tell me something. Yeah, I struggle with that too. I haven't done this participation rubric that we used to do for a couple of years now.
Mhm.
So I'm just like,
Mhm.
ugh. And it wasn't
More
recorded.
negative than a positive.
It wasn't recorded in Skyward. It was like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, to what degree are you using your language in class? And it was like, always,
Yeah.
usually,
I see
sometimes,
that,
never
yeah.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And when you attach the 4, 3, 2, or 1, 2, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is.
So I didn't put it in
Nobody
Skyward,
wants to
but still.
get a 3, you
Right.
know? I mean, and if
Mhm.
they have been, just the parameters for the 4 were like, you speak Spanish all the time, you never use English.
Mhm.
So that was a little bit unrealistic, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
for the kids that are really like trying,
Right.
but just
Mhm.
aren't there yet. I mean, they were
Yeah.
just like, I mean, and it wasn't like it was graded, but they always feel like
Mhm.
it is, so
Mhm.
it got to be something where I felt like it was almost demotivating, because they were just like, I'm never gonna be able to say everything in Spanish all the time,
Right.
so why even bother? Like, it wasn't.
How to take the best of it and not the worst of
Right.
it, and
Right.
what pieces of it. And maybe it's not something that's all the time. Maybe it's like, okay, within this time frame, we're gonna really practice this right now, and in smaller chunks. That might be a way to do it without it feeling like, you know, you're defeated
Right.
every day you walk into the Spanish class because you can't get to a 4.
Mhm. Right.
But, you know,
Yeah.
Okay, so what did we learn from the data? Next steps we should
Mhm.
take.
Steps we have some strategies to try out and implement. I really like that.
I want to work on that
Cards.
participation thing. I think that's,
Mhm.
I mean, I think more than ever this time I saw what that lack of just trying to, I mean, you cannot just turn it on at that level,
Mhm.
that rubric, and be using multiple tenses and be narrate. There is no like, I mean, in some ways at this level it is all or nothing. Like even if you're narrating and you have to use a little Spanglish, it's better than, you know, I mean, you get there
Right.
faster than if you have to, and if you never try to narrate at all.
I'm gonna try. Yeah, just to get it out. Get that in mouth.
Yeah, and I'm in level 3, not level 4 with, you know,
Mhm.
this PLC, but I think 3 is where that jump happens,
It
you know,
is,
because
yeah.
it's like all of a sudden, you know, from 1 to 2, you get in there and you go, oh my gosh, I forgot all my German. But then there's not that much that you forgot, so there's not that much to catch up on in a way. And then, but from 1 and 2, you really have to not only remember everything you learned, but you have to incorporate it into something that is like a higher level, you know, even thinking, let alone putting it together and speaking. But by the time you get to 4, you've done that for a while in 3, but now you're like multiple time frames and really using them in a way. Yeah,
And I felt like a lot of those kids were really good 3s, but they
Yeah.
just never made, you know, maybe like 3.5. You know, like, but they never
What is the
really
jump?
made the,
yeah.
they never really made the jump to that,
Mhm.
to that 4 to really be able to
Mhm.
express complicated ideas and.
So maybe a next step would be, you know, looking at the rubric and really, what are the indicators that make the difference from 3 to 4, or, you know, or from 2 to 3? And then what strategies might we use with specific students, like some form of participation, whether it's cards or time frame, or, you know, bringing that back for the kids who it works for.
Yeah, I think for me, I would really focus too on the time frame, like switching between, you know, trying to use some of that
Mhm.
past, present, and future. You know, I was encouraging them to try to use 2 different tenses in their
Mhm.
answer.
Mhm.
You know, because again, that's not something that you just turn on.
No.
That has to be practiced.
And practiced in a way that they feel like they are being successful. They
Mhm.
practice with word frames,
Right.
or sentence frames. What about like top 20 kinds of skills, maybe with you know, kids being absent and
Mhm.
anxiety,
That's a good question.
and you know, just constant relationship building kinds of things. I mean, not that we're not already doing that, but I think there are some good new tools that are being talked about in the building.
Well, and I think for me, I think I feel good that I think they feel like they improved. I
Mhm.
think they feel like they learned a lot. They didn't
Mhm.
it didn't hit the mark for us here.
Mhm.
I think every kid, I mean, some of these kids that, you know, even struggled a little bit based on the data, I've seen them 2 times already. you know, like they didn't get that from me, that they weren't good enough. You know what I mean? Like they still feel like there's that relationship there, and you know, just that idea that they're giving us their best,
Yeah.
that that's their best at that time.